guys see like the longer term future? Is it just that um, the big tech company controls the human increasingly more? Because everything you're saying, if you step back, it's like what Justin just said about the tracker, where common sense would have just said go outside and walk 30 minutes 3 times a week, right? But we're getting more like, well, no, I'm not healthy unless I got it confirming on this smartphone.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't mean to sound like alarmist here, but do you guys see, as far as like just the trajectory of this, is it just more and more control that the human controls less? I mean, kind of to go Elon Musk on you for a second, that more of your brain is actually in a computer. So Elon Musk, I'm not saying this is right, but he says right now we are cyborgs, like part robot, because imagine going somewhere without your smartphone. It's almost unimaginable, and people go through withdrawal to not have it. So this has actually become an extension, increasingly percent of actually us. And so where do you guys see that going? I mean, is it just increasingly controlled by a Google algorithm or Apple? Does that increasingly control us as a human?
I think definitely, and it really scares me. I mean, there's a lot on this, but yeah, it seems that even our free will, you could argue, is being augmented, changed, maybe attenuated or reduced, but it's hard to say. But yeah, if an algorithm or a series of algorithms are controlling even where our attention is, obviously it's having an influence on our own inner thoughts. So
yeah,
I think by definition, it's, kind of funneling people into something or
Yeah,
changing things.
Yeah, you have Yuval Harari, who's famous writer, Homo Deus, and you guys probably know a lot of his books better than I do. But he's an Israeli theorist that's been talking a lot about this kind of. He's an AI alarmist, essentially. He's saying that humanity's battle against AI, and how whenever you log on to a Google or a Facebook, that you have this huge machine who's staring at you, analyzing what you're doing. And it's like, and like what Josh says, I don't know if it's like taking away your free will, but it's this huge intellectual power who's looking at you and essentially analyzing your activity. And then how it wants to use that data is going to be a question of, definitely a question of, what are your capabilities of understanding how to even play against, like let's say life is chess. I mean, this machine is 1,000 times more a grandmaster than you are in the game of life, right? So the question is how do we persist against something like that? I guess that's my thing.
Yeah, Justin, we were talking a little bit offline about this, but I did end up looking it up, and it's interesting. So in the novel Brave New World, it's directly talking about Taylorism and Fordism, which is Henry Ford, the extension of this. And in that, it's in the future, kind of a authoritarian world state society, and they've interestingly cut off all the tops of the crosses to make T's. So like crosses in a church, they cut off the tops to make T's for the Model T for Henry Ford, and that's how they tell what year it is. It's the year after the Model T, so it's the year of Ford, 600. Yeah, so it's really interesting that directly talks about a future where all of society has been controlled, put into these different things, humans or machines made to fit into the society, and directly talking about Taylorism and Fordism, to the logical conclusion.
It's amazing how writers were able to extrapolate that far into the future just from like an invention of Ford's conveyor belt of building cars, which by the way was consulted by Taylor. Frederick Winslow Taylor helped consult on that. And then the other interesting thing, Jerome, was Josh just recently contacted Google and requested his search results. That you could actually request your search results from using Google from the beginning of time. Is that right?
Yeah, did you guys know about that?
I looked it up. I couldn't figure out how to find it, actually.
It's fascinating. I'm going to put together a list of steps, because we're talking about doing that for a student assignment, actually. Not to take their data, but just to show them how to gain access to it. But yeah, through, I think, one of those European right to your own data or right to privacy laws, the long and short of it is Google has to give you all of the data that they have on you, or, you know, ostensibly all the data they have on you if you request it. So the reason they have so much on me is because I've used Gmail since I went to college. So anytime you're logged into Gmail and have a separate tab and search for something, it logs that, and you can actually go back in. And so I had, you know, 15 years worth of search terms pretty much, which was super fascinating.
Can you also request to have it deleted?
I think there's a way to do that.
That's not part of the request form. You would think there'd be a little checkbox.
It's advanced. They've made this whole interface for what you're requesting, what format you're getting it in. I think there's ways to delete it. I mean, maybe they made it too complex, but it's nice to kind of have granular control over that.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Okay.
Josh, that's powerful. You could see that. That's crazy. And you know, it's Justin, with the whole world, with the arts that we talk, you and Josh and I talk about, bringing it like full circle, at least to like, I guess what I can offer here today, it presents some really interesting questions. I mean, Josh and I working in music and music tech, conducting, live performance, all that kind of stuff is, what is good art? What our audience is exposed to or not exposed to, whether it's live music, whether it's concerts, whether it's artists. How do we distribute art? Even a basic question, there's one of the national leaders on arts, his name's Eric Booth, one of the great music educator kind of national figures. And he feels that currently there's like a lack of really appreciating really good art of substance. So it's a question of like, are we able to still like judge art for ourselves? And sort of how do people consume art and choose art? And it all links into this too, right? Because a lot of it is through tech. So I think that lens is changing a lot.
Yeah, and the way we market stuff and, you know, that thread as well. Totally.